This is Aaron Judge.
Oh, where'd you get that one?
This was a gift from a former coworker.
The guy that doesn't like me?
No, it was from an intern that worked for me. She was I guess, I don't know. She was nice.
Nice gift. I kind of want the 62 one.
Oh yeah, the Maris Judge thing. I've got Jedi Judge here.
I have Jedi Judge in my office.
I gave away the Gleyber Torres bobblehead because
because you hate Gleyber Torres. I have two of them.
Couldn't stand looking at Gleyber Torres on my desk
Speaking of optics,
anymore.
does Gleyber have 90 RBIs right now? 90? Is he up there? No. I saw a graphic on
between
Twitter
60 and 70, 65 and 70.
There's so many graphics on Twitter where people are selecting different dates that are really bothering me. They're selecting like
he probably has like 93 RBIs since some point last year.
There was someone put up a Isaiah Kiner-Falefa graphic. It looked like it was from a Baseball Reference player comparison. It was Kiner-Falefa and Cody Bellinger, and he had a higher WAR. And I was like, no fucking way. And I was like, I can't wait to throw this in their faces. And then I went and I looked at it. I was like, this is completely fake. Cool. I couldn't find it again, and I couldn't get the number. I couldn't even manipulate the number to try to do something.
His is below 70 degrees outside, but above 66, and humidity's at 51%. Then his WAR is better than Bellinger's.
Who do you think leads the team in RBIs?
Is it still Judge?
Judge, maybe?
No, it's not. It's Gleyber.
It's
66.
66.
Yeah. Gleyber, Judge, Volpe. 1, 2, 3.
And how close are they? They got to be pretty
66,
close.
64, and 60. Stanton has 58.
Stanton.
He's a change name back.
Well, I'm just going to have Donald leave all that in. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripes Show. You got a little pre-show action there. Scott, how you doing? The season is wrapping up soon. When we went into this Toronto series, we said, 6 to play, 6 back. Maybe make it interesting.
Hey, the numbers work out.
And they proceeded to lose the first 2, won the third game. So, yeah, their elimination number is now down to 3. Not that we had any delusions of them actually making the postseason, but I wanted to see them just make life more difficult for the Blue Jays, and that did not happen this week.
Well, I mean, Michael King made life difficult for them, and then the bullpen imploded. But yeah, they tried to, at least for on the pitching side. Cole and King were a nice little 1-2 punch, to be honest. Maybe it's a glimpse of what to expect into the future. And I saw you getting a little frisky in our chat, saying, "Whoa, maybe Michael King could be a middle of the rotation arm. Maybe he's not a 4 and 5. Pride of Rhode Island. Maybe
Number 3
he could be a 2 or a 3.
Number 2. Who do you have more confidence in next year, Carlos Rodon or Michael King?
Michael King.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's that looking for positives here. That's a huge positive. It really is. I mean, he's the last month ever since he's slotted into that stretching out role, and now he's a bona fide starting pitcher with 7 innings pitched. That's was it 12 or 13 strikeouts? I mean, it was a
season high for a Yankee starting pitcher.
It was a really good performance. He looked really good. He looked like the dominant Michael King, but in starter form, which is something that's really cool to see.
So, yeah, let's get into the King stuff. We planned on spending a lot of time on Michael King. Just quickly, among AL starting pitchers since August 24th, which is when King started becoming a regular starting pitcher, he ranks first in ERA with a 1.27, first in strikeouts, 42, first in strikeouts per 9 innings with over 13, first in strikeout percentage, over 37%, first in home runs per 9 inning, 0, first in FIP, 0.72, and first in WAR at 1.6. So we're not just, but I looking at those numbers over a month span.
How many starts is that? 3?
No, it's more
4?
than 3. I think it's 5 starts, right?
Oh, 5 starts?
That was his 5th start for 5th or 6th start against the Blue Jays this week. Logan's going to pull it up, but I think at least I'm not just saying I'm high on Michael King for next year being a starting pitcher just because of all of those numbers, which are obviously great. It's because I watched him pitch. That was his 6th start against the Blue Jays.
Oh, wow.
I watched him pitch the other night. And like you said, the stuff is there. There is dominant stuff there. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's going to be a number 1 pitcher. because we still need to see that proven out. And he has had injury problems last year. He was an attempted starting pitcher. He came up through the system as a starting pitcher, and they never really used him as a starting pitcher, but they gave him starts. They gave him opens. And it looked bad, especially when he would get through that second time through the order. But we've seen him overcome that in this month-long stretch. And again, the stuff is there to be a good starting pitcher. He has strikeout stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you need to have in today's game to be an effective starting pitcher. You need to have strikeout stuff.
You don't have to have strike. Hold on. I don't totally agree with that. You don't have to have strikeout stuff to be a good starting pitcher in the league. You have to be able to, you have to be able to control your pitches. That's the number one thing. Like if you don't have strikeout stuff and you're pitching to contact, you can still be very successful here. But yes,
rare.
you see it. It's rare, but it's harder to do. And it's usually guys that don't throw very hard. And it's guys that are, relying on their location and, the deception in their delivery, things like that. But yeah, small caveat. Yes, he's got everything you need and you would want from I'll say it. All the things that he has, you want from a frontline starting pitcher. Like that's what he's doing. So yes, he's got to prove it out over time. And doing that against a very good Toronto lineup that has a lot to lose and they're playing for a lot right now is something that's good. So that's a high quality appearance. It's not just him going up against the Oakland Athletics or the Detroit Tigers, or it's him going up against a team that's contending for a playoff spot with a very young, potent lineup. So everything that we've seen so far has been really good. And at least the Yankees are committing to this point and allowing him to, develop as a starting pitcher late in the season. And they're making, the most of his appearances now, rather than just saying, okay, let's just keep him in the bullpen and do the thing. But
it's one of the few bright spots with this team right now. And just give me a full offseason to talk myself into him being a number one starting pitcher next year.
I don't think you need a full offseason.
A sneak peek on my bold predictions.
He's definitely one of those guys for you that doesn't need a ton. You don't need a ton of time to get excited about him.
No.
It's
So we also saw this tweet from Gerrit Seidler, who I don't know what he does or who he is, but it was retweeted by James.
Kind of hard to tell these days, to be honest, with the landscape of X.
But in reference to Michael King's pitching the other night, he linked an article on Baseball Prospectus written in 2022 about Max Scherzer titled "The Two Scherzers." And what this article highlighted was that Scherzer figured out a different approach when facing left and right-handed hitters. He basically abandoned his slider versus left-handed batters and developed they called a power slider or a cutter to lefties, as well as a backdoor curveball. And then against righties, he had a completely different approach. So I'll just read this paragraph quickly. Since refining his current pitch repertoire, Scherzer has been two different yet eerily consistent pitchers, depending entirely on whether he has the platoon advantage or not. Against righties, he's bordering on modern closer-style pitch usage, spamming his fastball and slider upwards of 85% of the time, with only a handful of changeups and other offerings to keep hitters honest. His fastball usage remains similar against southpaws, but the slider completely vanishes, replacing it with his other three pitches in steady doses. And on the surface of that, you might be saying, duh, a pitcher has two different approaches against lefties and righties. Like, doesn't every pitcher do that? But this article highlighted that what Scherzer did or has done, especially like the last 4 or 5 years of his career, is not very common among starting pitchers.
Can I ask you a clarifying question before you keep going on that? Are they referencing the fact that there's a repertoire, or I'm sorry, that there's a pitch mix difference between lefties and righties, or that Scherzer abandoned one of his normal pitches, steady pitches, and developed something specifically for?
I think it's more of the latter.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay.
Because I would venture to guess that, yeah, like a guy, if his slider gets hit more by lefties than righties, he's not going to throw it. Like, that makes sense. Like, the pitch mix changes, but he specifically developed pitches, to target
more consistently
lefties and righties. Yeah.
Yes.
And like I said, he's two different pitchers. If you just look at his splits against righties, he throws two pitches. And then if you just look at his splits against lefties, he throws 3 pitches, not what he throws against. So it's just like it's very stark in the different splits.
It makes sense when you look at his face because of his eye color.
He's
It's
two-faced.
different on either side. Yeah, it's interesting how.
Well, can I quickly relate that?
Yeah,
to
keep
King?
going.
So basically, what this person was saying on Twitter is like King is doing a similar thing, and we looked at the pitch usage for King versus lefties and righties. To righties, he's been primarily a sinker and a sweeper. 47% of the time sinker, 30% of the time sweeper. And then to left-handed batters, it's a mix of sinkers, changeups, and four-seamers. And the biggest difference here is the four-seamer. Against lefties, he throws the four-seamer 25.8% of the time. Only 16% of the time versus righties. Again, he's primarily sinker sweeper against righties. And then lefties, he's throwing sinker 33%, changeup 28%, four seam 25%. Pretty much an even mix of those 3 pitches to lefties. And we were talking in our chat, like, why do we think he does not throw the sinker nearly as much to lefties as he does to righties? And I remembered a quote he gave to the media one of the starts. Actually, it was after the Houston start, which is we found his only actual win as a starting pitcher, talking about throwing to Austin Wells, and that they had a conversation about how he likes to approach left-handed batters. And he's very conscious of not having his sinker leak over the middle of the plate when he's trying to throw a front door sinker to left-handed batters. Basically the old Greg Maddux pitch that, comes back over and catches the corner and lefties just get locked up. And so he's gotten beat when his sinker leaks over. So maybe he's gone to his four-seam fastball more because he has been able to get that inside on left-handed batters more consistently, since it's more of a true plane rather than, leaking back into the middle of the plate. So again, this is just more, in-depth look at how King has been able to be an effective starting pitcher beyond just the fact that you look at him and it's like, yeah, he's got the talent to do it.
So a couple things here. To me, the bigger difference is not so much in the sinker. It is the secondary pitch. Like the sinker's still the primary pitch, either way. So the sinker is still heavily relied upon. It's not like he's abandoning the sinker against left-handed batters. The sinker's still thrown the highest percentage, 30.
No, it's the sweeper. It's the sweeper that he's really abandoning
Correct.
to lefties, and he's mixing in a lot more four-seamers. Basically, the difference is made up with four-seam fastballs.
And when you look at the sweeper against a right-handed, which makes a lot of sense, the sweeper against a right-handed batter starts, on the inside of the plate or at the body or whatever, and is either coming, if he's depending on how he's throwing it, is either coming on the inside or it's going away off the plate, and he's able to minimize damage. Whereas if you're throwing that to a left-handed batter, there's less room for error. It's you can see the pitch a lot more clearly, and you have a higher percentage of leaving that thing over the plate. So the fact that he's going to that I love the fact that he's going to the four seam because he's got a really good fastball, and I think he's got some natural movement even on the four seam. He's got some natural tail to it that I think it's a really effective pitch to lefties. And then the changeup is the other one. Like he's significantly using that changeup. Yeah. Which makes sense because now he's working off of the sinker and the four seam, which are 2 fastballs, and he's using the changeup, which does have a very similar action, looks the same coming off, but the speed change and a little bit of a drop, I think, helps him against that left-handed pitcher. So to me, the sweeper is the difference, which makes a lot of sense. Just makes a lot of sense when you're looking at how you would attack a right-handed and a left-handed batter.
And on the surface,
and the sweeper's a slider again for it's a slider. It's a slider.
So you might be thinking, like, doesn't every starting pitcher do this? And I would think the same, but especially because, like, if you're trying to equate it to like a switch hitter, right? A switch hitter moves to the other side of the plate to get a platoon advantage against the pitcher. And that is, in my opinion, would be much more difficult to do effectively, be a switch hitter, than to have 2 different approaches to lefty or righty batters as a pitcher. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I mean, look at how many pitchers don't have a feel for more than 2 to 3 pitches. So it's extremely difficult, I think, for
you got to have a feel for 5.
You got to have a feel for 4 to 5. Like Carlos Rodon can't do this. Carlos Rodon is a 2-pitch guy, and he's just relying on his location and deception of when he's using one of 2 pitches. So it's just really a different attack. And when you have the stuff that Michael King does, and you have the command of 4 pitches, and you're able to throw them confidently to different batters depending on which side of the plate they're on, that's a huge advantage. It's a huge advantage. So yeah, I think it's very difficult also to do it as a pitcher with this many pitches.
Yeah, I am obviously excited about King for next year, and again, I think he does have potential to be more than maybe we thought a couple weeks ago based on what we've seen. I want to tell you guys about Game Time, which is our preferred ticket app because it is the easiest way to buy tickets to whatever you want to go to: sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, theater, and much, much more. You can get pretty great tickets this weekend if you want to go see the Yankees one last time at home against the Diamondbacks. You can get tickets for like $50 that would ordinarily if the Yankees were still in contention, cost you triple that. So go check them out on Game Time. The app has so many cool features and is easy to use. It shows you trending tickets, what sections of the best deals are in, and calls out cheap options and flash sales, and much more so you can make informed purchases. There's even event cancellation protection so you can buy with confidence. I love using the app because you get images of your seats before you buy so you know what to expect, which is key if you're going to a stadium that you have not been to before. The buying process is super fast, just a couple of taps and you're done. The tickets then go directly to your phone, so you don't have to dig through emails to find them. You can also share them easily with friends if you're going that way. Snag tickets today without stress using Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use code BRONX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Once again, download the app, create an account, and use code BRONX for $20 off your first purchase. Alrighty. Let's anything else on King before we go on to some other stuff?
He talking about the player itself, like he really does seem motivated to uncover the right formula for this. I don't know. He doesn't seem like a hard-headed guy. He doesn't seem like he's, stuck in any ways. It seems like he's extremely coachable and extremely open to analytics, which I think is a good thing when you're looking at how certain pitches are being thrown. I think analytics on the development side are way more interesting than in-game play and using them to make decisions in a baseball game. I think analytics on the development side and how you can use them to either come up with a new pitch or, abandon a pitch based on, what you're seeing is like, that's where you can get like transformations. And that's where you can really refine a lot of different things. And he just seems wide open to that. So that's exciting to me because there's a player who really, is open to tinkering with what he's doing. And this is a direct shot at Carlos Rodon. Okay. Direct shot. Not just going to rely on what's been and what's gotten you to a
no, don't think
point
just grip it and rip
working.
it. That's the Carlos Rodon mentality. Just grip it and rip it. Dominguez underwent a successful Tommy John surgery. He had a brace put in, which is also what Ohtani did, who said he's going to be hitting in 2024. So I was having this conversation with someone since Ohtani's going to be a free agent. What the hell do you do with him if you're a team? Like, how do you approach that contract this offseason? There's so many layers there with Ohtani.
I mean, you have to develop. You have to make sure that he's going to pitch at some point.
Well, he said he's going to pitch in 2025.
I know, but the contract is going to have to have that in it. It's going to have that built. It's really bad timing.
There's incentives or like contingent upon him also pitching, maybe.
I think that's a possibility, or it's just baked in, or it's just baked in because someone will bake it in. How many guys have you seen? How many teams have you seen take a chance on a guy who has Tommy John surgery, understanding that he's probably going to come back better? You just have to wait for it.
Yeah, but
this guy also hits.
You sign a guy.
I know that's what's different.
You sign a guy for 2 years and it's 2 years, $10 million. Ohtani's going to get $500 million.
Right, because he's hitting as well. But you do have to bake in the pitching side of it because you know that when he does pitch, he's a dominant pitcher also. So it's going to be interesting to see how much it is baked in based on the fact that 2025 is the year that he's going to actually pitch.
If he doesn't If he doesn't pitch, though, you cannot justify that level of contract.
For sure. So I'm just curious if teams are going to build that in as a contingency or the market is going to dictate that you have to pay for it. Because it might.
I think it's going to take a lot of teams. I think it's going to bring down the amount of teams bidding significantly. And I don't think he's going to get nearly what we thought he was going to get 3 months ago.
I think it changes completely what his value is right now. And there's a lot more unknown considering you have to go an entire year before you even find out if that's going to be a possibility.
And the injury risk has always been there for him.
For sure.
And is only going to get worse the older he gets. And now you're not going to get him pitching again until, because he's still only like 25 or 26 years old, right? So I know he's still young, but I don't know. I love Ohtani. He's the talent is out of this world. But if I was in a position as a general manager, I would be so terrified to sign him because that could backfire so drastically and sink your organization. If you're a team that, I mean, the Yankees could handle it, the Dodgers could handle it, but say you are the general manager of, trying to think of like a team that is willing to spend, but like, I don't know,
the San Diego Padres.
No, like how the Seattle Mariners signed Robinson Cano to $200 and something million, right? That sunk them basically because it didn't work out for a little while. If you're the Seattle Mariners type organization and you do that with Ohtani, that's sinking you 2x because it's going to take $400 million to sign him. And then if he's not pitching or not an effective pitcher in 2025, or basically just relegated to being a DH, and you're spending $40 million a year on just a DH, then you're significantly overpaying for that, even if he is still a great hitter.
Yeah. So the structure of the contract will be something to look at because I think it will be very interesting, but I do think that certain teams will go there and baking in the pitching, understanding that he's going to come back and just making that bet that he's going to come back as a pitcher. If I'm Ohtani as well, the other thing I'm probably doing this offseason, I'm showing a lot of tape of me playing first base and actually transitioning to a first base. Forget the outfield. Don't even try to go back out there. It's probably not realistic on a daily basis. It's probably not a realistic thing as he's getting older, if the pitching is going to happen. First base though, with him, I could see that being a position that he can get old doing. He's got the profile for a first baseman across the board, defensively, offensively. He's got the first baseman profile. We know how first basemen get paid offensively as well. That's what I would be doing if I were him. And, Ohtani has shown zero, has never shown anything to anybody that he can't do a particular thing. So I have full confidence that he could do that. Just show a lot of tape of that. Just a lot of Instagram. Giancarlo Stanton is going to be bench pressing Instagram models, and Ohtani is going to be showing
fielding grounders,
fielding ground balls, and just like doing it with perfection,
showing that he's got the footwork down to go cover, receive a ball at first base.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be more difficult for him to be a relief pitcher?
What do you mean more difficult
than being a starting pitcher? Because as a starting pitcher, that's once a week, more or less. And then you don't have to focus
logistically,
on that again.
It's more difficult.
Logistically, it's much more difficult. But I wonder if just physically it would be easier or more difficult. I don't know.
I don't think it matters as much. I think it's just a matter of how you're conditioning your body to and your arm to throw for a particular season. God, if you have the ability to do it.
I want the Mets to sign Ohtani.
So that it's a dumpster fire?
No, I don't know. I feel like that would be fun. Just having him in New York. Because listen, I want the Yankees to sign Ohtani. It's not happening. Okay. We all know it's not happening. So I don't know. It'd be cool if he's on the Mets.
Well, I think it's mostly because he doesn't want to play in New York, though. I think that's more the bigger piece. I think if Ohtani,
I don't think the Yankees would sign him because they would look at the roster and be like, where the hell are we going to play him? We already have an expensive DH that sucks, and we have first base. Yeah, because maybe Rizzo is done.
It's just he's got another year on his contract. It doesn't matter.
Okay, fine. Ohtani first base. Let's get on the train. Ohtani first base, and then ace of the staff 2025, along with Michael King and Gerrit Cole.
Damn right, and Rodon. Don't forget, Rodon's here, whether you like it or not.
I'm gonna pretend he's not. He had the brace put in. Did Dominguez? And was that the same thing Britton had put in? Right? Didn't Britton have the brace put in?
They called it a sheath. They called it if I remember correctly. I don't know if it's the same thing.
All right. Well, successful TJS, Tommy John surgery for Jason Dominguez, eyeing a midseason June or July return in 2024.
Some
What'd you think?
unflattering pictures that they got to take of the guy in the hospital bed. I don't know
I
why
hate
that-
the
I don't know
I
why
hate
they
the
gotta
hospital
do
bed
that.
pictures.
It's not
What's
even
with the
like he
hospital
was-
bed pictures?
It looked like he was all doped up. He wasn't even looking at the camera. He was just like,
I hope he was.
like,
I hope he was doped up.
I'm saying, like, why do we have to take pictures of the kid? Just
Wait till the
looking like
next
an idiot.
morning. He can give a thumbs up with the other hand or something.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
they did. They took a picture of him, after that too, and he was fully dressed and had the arm thing on. Just, like, give him some grace. Let him show some grace, for God's
Well,
sakes.
it reminds me of like when we were in the hospital after Lucy was born, and Leanne's like, "I don't want to take a picture right now of me," because like she just had surgery, and she's like, "No, I'm not doing this right now. Let's
Yeah.
wait 24 hours."
Right.
What'd you think of Boone's ejection on Wednesday night, 7th of the season?
I thought it was interesting that it came on the same day that his pitcher struck out the highest amount of guys all season.
That home
long.
plate umpire has the biggest zone in the league, and he quote fucking knows it.
Cool. So it was helping them. That's what I'm saying. Like,
oh, you're saying that that umpire strike zone has the same effect on both teams?
well, it's not like usually when you're going and giving it to a guy, it's like you're seeing a little bit more on your side than you are on their side. But Michael King struck out 13 people in that same game. So it's not like the umpire wasn't calling strikes for Michael King. And in fact, if I'm Michael King, I'm telling Aaron Boone to shut
Boone,
the hell up.
Shut it.
Yeah. What are you doing? Like, do you see the way I'm dealing right now? How about we just get a hit? Because guess what? The common denominator is that the Yankees cannot hit. It's not that the umpires are
all
calling
season
bad.
long. The Yankees
Yeah,
have not been able
the
to hit,
Yankees
no matter
just can't
who's
hit. Boone,
umpiring.
just teach them how to hit, or find someone they can, or allow them to hit. Don't yell at the umpire. It's not the umpire's fault. In fact, it's helping you right now. So yeah, again, just like little bit of a flag for not understanding what's happening in the current situation.
Not having a feel for a pulse on the moment. You're telling me Boone didn't have? Interesting. I am so tired of him just getting ejected for arguing balls and strikes again, when really the frustration is, as you pointed out, the Yankees cannot hit, and they haven't been able to hit all season long. It's not the umpire's fault.
What are we doing?
Anymore,
Are we getting
guys.
our guys back at this point? It's September 21st when you're playing this game, or 20th, whenever that was, and the season's over, homie. Like you're not making any differences in the
Let your guy
locker
King
room.
go out there and cook, and just shut up and sit on the
Seriously.
bench, Boone.
You're not getting like the guys rallied behind the.
Did
the umpire
Giancarlo
having
seem
their
fired
back.
up after that game? Because that was when you dropped that video link in. That was after Wednesday night's game. Reporters definitely questioning, giving more difficult questions and rapid fire to Stanton about his struggles and the team struggles this offseason. Did you hear anything about Stanton saying, "Oh, well, Boone had our back tonight. He got us fired up to score one run"?
No. Yeah, nothing about that. But lots of questions. That's an interesting. I thought it was it was the post game after what day was that?
I think it was Wednesday night.
Okay, Wednesday night. It was a post game of that when they're talking to Stanton, and it definitely felt like the media was giving it to him a little bit more and asking him more pointed questions and specific questions, asking him about the way he's running. Like, is this the way you're now running? Is this it? Is this
what you are now?
Is this what you are? Is the hip, the flexion in your hip, is that going to improve? Is like pretty good questions, actually, I thought, from the beat reporters when they were talking to Stanton. And probably not the easiest guy to ask those types of questions to, because of there's an intimidation factor, I think, with him and other guys. You got to kind of have to work through that. And his answers were, very humbling. You could tell in his voice that he's like, yeah, I suck. But basically saying that there's no other way for me to come back here besides improving. I have to improve. I can't run like this next year. It has to be better. So
once again, giving all the right answers. I've completely lost faith that he's going to improve at this point.
Yeah, it's, to me, the most alarming thing is that in season he's legitimately not trying to improve anything on the whole running thing has me a little perplexed. Like, you're stiff, man. You're very stiff.
He looks like a statue that barely came to life running out.
And the fact that he's actually trotting that out and like using that form of Giancarlo Stanton on the field is wild to see. It's almost like he's not trying. And that bothers me. So whether he's given the right answers or not, the fact that he's out there with limited mobility and like that's just it, that can't just be it. That can't just be it. So I don't know what we're gonna see next year in the beginning of the season if we're gonna see a guy that, because he's, he's talked about the Pilates and the and making sure that he's staying nimble and doing all the yoga and things like that to stay flexible. And clearly it's not working. Like he's got some locked up hips right now.
Well, he's going to be 34 years old next season. He turns 34 next June.
Going on 43.
So that's the thing. He's an old 34. He was well below league average offensive production this year. Do you think though?
He looks stiff as hell in the outfield too. It's not like he played when the balls were at him. He did what he was supposed to do, I guess, but his range is awful. He can't. His arm doesn't even look as like it's where it
his
used
body
to be.
just looks like it's completely broken down.
He just looks
even
stiff.
though he looks amazing. His body looks like it just has completely broken down.
Well, and even when you watch him hit, I mean, he's always been an upper body guy where he throws, the lumberjack comparison has been made a number of times where you see him just throw his hands at the ball and not get the traditional hip turn. But to me this year, it's been drastically more, exaggerated, which again is just leading me down the road of he's got no flexibility in the middle of his body, which is a huge problem. Literally, figuratively, all of the above. It's a problem.
So 2018, first year with the Yankees, he was very good. A 130 OPS plus. He finished 19th in MVP voting. And I think most importantly, he played in 158 games. And there was a point in that season after Judge went down with that wrist injury where he played a lot of days in a row and was very, very good. 2019, injured, throw it out. 2020.
And he played with an injury too. He had a hamstring, if I remember correctly, that he played through during that time.
2020 COVID season, also injured, throw it out. 2021, 139 games played, a 136 OPS plus. Good. He hit 273, 354, 516. He hit 35 home runs that year. I mean, I guess on the surface of it, it didn't look as good as he did in 2018. It wasn't as consistent, but the numbers are there. 2022, he was an all-star. He had a very good first half of the season. He was abysmal in the second half of the season, just like the rest of the team, except Aaron Judge was. He finished with a 113 OPS plus in 110 games. This year, he's at an 87 OPS plus in 97 games. So call it 105 games played, 108 games played this year with probably like an 87, 88 OPS plus, 10, 11% below league average offensive production. Can he even get back to what we saw last year, which is like 10 to 15% better than league average offensive production? I feel like it's a coin flip at this point if he can even do that. And that's scary considering you've got this guy through 2027.
It is. There's no doubt. And unless he's able to fix his body in a way that allows him to be that hitter, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a guy that's just, aging right before our eyes. And unfortunately, unless he's able to
aging in dog years before our eyes.
Yeah, but he's got to figure something out in the physical abilities, because his physical abilities right now are limiting everything he can do. Mechanically, he's just not sound. And I again, like I say it again, like I understand that he's got a very different mechanical approach than most hitters do, and he's been able to get away with it for a long time because of his freakish athletic ability. But as you're now aging and becoming more stiff and you're losing that flexibility and you're losing the hand speed and the, just the overall quickness, it's going to continue to get bad because he's going to get beat by a high fastball every single time if he's slow and only using hands.
And he's a drain on the roster because he can't play the field consistently or really well anymore. So he's taking up a DH spot and he's not even producing like a DH should. And he's making a lot of money and is a high profile player. It could get really, really ugly very, very quickly. Uglier than it's gotten. Like, I wouldn't say it's gotten ugly yet from the sense of questions about, are they going to release him? That kind of thing. But I feel like
no, I don't think that's in question right now.
No, but he has another season next year like he had this year, that's definitely going to be a topic brought up.
Agreed. Yeah, no doubt about it. It'll be more glaring too, I think, when you have a better team around you and there's guys having success. I think that will be more apparent if he's still struggling and there's not some, benefit that he's seeing from guys who are hitting around him, but just physically he's just not there. And that's where he needs to focus. He needs to be able to get to a point where he can do all the things mechanically. And I just don't think he's there right now. You see hit from running. He can't run. Can't run. He's a professional athlete that cannot run.
And I know he's been hitting 5th in a lot of lineups recently, but for the most part this year he's hit 4th. And so next year, I'm sure on opening day, he'll be hitting 4th, assuming he's in the lineup.
If Aaron Boone is the manager, yes. But
you go into
fingers crossed that there's somebody that thinks differently.
Like you said, like assuming the lineup around him is better next year, and you've got guys, Judge and hopefully Rizzo's back and Volpe is in his second season, are all hitting, and then you've got a cleanup hitter hitting 197, right? You're like, that sticks out like a sore thumb.
For sure. No doubt about it. And it's not going to be, it can't be tolerated at the top of the lineup. Not after this season.
So then you're going to have Giancarlo Stanton hitting 6th or 7th, making whatever he's making. It's like,
you can't bring the contract into where he's hitting and I think that Boone does, no doubt.
Well, I think it's not just the contract, it's the name.
Okay. Well, I need someone that doesn't give a shit about that and just looks at what's happening on the field. I just need that. I need that. We all need that. We all need an objective approach. Okay. An objective approach to what we're seeing on the field. Please, God, something.
As Mike Exisa put in an article on CBS Sports yesterday, a fresh perspective. Good article. I encourage you all to go check it out. I want to read a couple things from it. Not like a ton of groundbreaking things, but I just think some interesting points that we can discuss for a couple minutes. So quoting from Mike, at the end of the day, this is Cashman's roster and Cashman's coaching staff. And the mistakes over the last 26 months or so have piled up and meaningfully subtract from New York's World Series chances. Consider the Joey Gallo and Frankie Montas trades were complete busts. At best, zero impact. More realistically, negative impact. I agree with that. Josh Donaldson in decline and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, not an everyday shortstop, were misevaluated, and that's putting it kindly. The Donaldson thing was a complete disaster. IKF, the more I think about it, I think they probably knew he wasn't an everyday shortstop and they were just biding time until hopefully Volpe was ready. And that's what we saw happen this year. But still, the shortstop situation was a complete dumpster fire last year. So that needs to be put on Cashman squarely. The Jordan Montgomery for Harrison Bader trade is another loss. And Bader was dumped on waivers this year and after not being traded. Also, quick aside, Harrison Bader back on the IL, will not play in the postseason. Injury guy. Carlos Rodon's first season in Pinstripes has featured a 5.90 ERA and 12 starts around multiple injuries.
He's working his ass off to get that thing under 6.
We should also include the failure to address the left field last offseason. The left field hole is going on 3 years now, and it was a clear need last winter, yet the position went undressed. To me, that's one of the biggest black marks on here. You go out and make a trade for Gallo and Montas and it doesn't work out. Okay, at least you went and did something. You just did nothing in left field for 3 straight years, even though it was a problem, other than acquiring Benintendi at the deadline, who I know got injured right away. That's not necessarily Cashman's fault, although he does seem to have a track record for trading for guys that get injured quite frequently. And guess what?
Maybe it's just other GMs that understand what their player is and that there's an underlying injury. They just beeline to Cashman.
It's like, well, you take this guy, I'll give you a 10% discount.
He won't find it. Their medical staff is trash, so no one's going to find it. Let's just go after him, and maybe we'll get a little bit less. But guess what? We're going to get rid of the problem.
And so left field just went basically on nothing. Let's just do nothing in left field and cross our fingers and hope it works. That's the worst possible place to be. Once again, is indecisive and inaction. It's the worst possible place to be in a position of power like Cashman. Then he does say, well, it's not all bad, right? Like there have been wins along the way. In separate trades, the Yankees stole relievers Clay Holmes and Wandy Peralta and catcher Jose Trevino. But the bad outweighs the good, and it's not close either. Things have gone stale in the Bronx. They need a new voice. To that end, Steinbrenner said the Yankees will, quote, possibly bring in an outside company to really take a look at the analytics side of what we do. He pledged a deep dive into everything, analytics, player development, etc., and it's needed, though it's unclear if A, this will actually happen, and B, whether the Yankees will follow any recommendations or are doing this for show. That's scary. That is like a common thought among people, that
Optics.
Steinbrenner is complacent and just whatever what Cashman's doing, he's doing a good job. Let's not make any changes. Because Mike also points out teams that make changes at general manager do so before a season is over, so that new GM has a full off season to work, rather than getting hired in late November and not having a full offseason. Just like the Red Sox did with Chaim Bloom. They fired him a couple weeks ago. So whoever they bring in is going to have a full winter to make a new situation next year.
Well, I think that if you're getting rid of him during the season or if you're getting rid of him just after the season, I don't think there's much of a difference there. So
but there's a hiring process, which the Red Sox have already started.
I understand that, but they, again, it's a couple of weeks. I don't think it's all that.
No, he's saying that when teams make changes at general manager, typically the GM gets fired before the season is over.
I understand what you're saying. I hear you.
So not that any of us think Cashman's getting fired.
Because I don't think he's getting fired, right?
But it's just more backing that he's not going to get fired. But like, it is scary that this is like a very common thought, that what the Yankees are doing and saying is just for optics, that they still believe what they're doing is the right thing and ultimately going to work, when everything has said otherwise.
Yeah, it's because that's worst case scenario for all of us watching this team. That's worst case scenario, is that the status quo just continues. And we are, put in a position now to watch a team that we know damn well is not going to compete as they should. And there's just a million question marks. So there's not a lot of confidence to gather from any of this stuff because of the track record in the last 10 to 15 years. There's just not. And yeah, Cashman's it's not going to change. You can hope that there's openness to other voices and opinions. And I know that they brought in the guy from the Giants last year, and Omar Minaya. So they have additional voices that have GM experience and team building experience that will, be with Cashman throughout this offseason. So that's at least something, but I just don't, it's hard to gather, any confidence from anything we're hearing right now. And so help me God, if they keep Boone on for another year, it's that to me is just more of an optic that nothing is changing at all. And that they are really set in their ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that, again, is obvious, but that he makes a good point on, is that the Cole Judge prime should be a powerhouse, and the Yankees are just completely pissing it away.
Yeah. Judge hit 62 home runs, a record. And Cole is going to win the Cy Young this year,
right,
and they have nothing to show for it.
You have arguably, given, year in, year out, but like, you have one of the 2 or 3 best starting pitchers and one of the 2 or 3 best position players in baseball in their primes at the same time on a roster, and you're going to finish 500 this year. And we know
that's interesting to look up. Has there been a time where you have back-to-back MVP, Cy Young, and the team finishes as bad as it has? I don't remember.
Well, last year it looks good. The Yankees won the division.
Sure, but they didn't go anywhere. They didn't. I'm curious as to what the team records have been, or team success has been with an
just
MVP
look at
and a Cy Young, or
Anaheim.
even how many times that's happened. Huh?
Just look at Anaheim.
Yeah, but the Cy Young, they haven't had a Cy Young.
No, that's true. Yeah, they haven't had any,
which has been a big problem for them. Yeah, but you have both now, and Gerrit Cole. It's not like he wasn't in the Cy Young running last year. Like, the guy has been top of the game, but you have an MVP and then like a top 3, even like a top 3 Cy Young guy.
Yeah. No, it's been, and that's my fear, is that we only have 1 or 2 more seasons of both of those guys at elite prime levels. Of course, they could both be very good beyond that, but we all know what the current baseball prime is, and those guys are entering the end of their baseball prime.
Well, I'd say Cole has a longer leash and a
yes,
longer
because we've
extension.
seen Verlander and Scherzer be aces.
I'll go up
into
until
their
40 years
late
old.
30s. Right. But
and the way Cole is built, he's probably going to be able to have success, late in his 30s.
Great, but Judge isn't probably not going to hit 62 home runs again next year. Like he was good this year when especially before he got injured through June, he was very good, actually on pace to maybe hit another 60 home runs. But yeah, they're wasting it. And the team around them has so many holes. It's not just like you need a couple pieces in the offseason. You need like 11 pieces in the offseason.
You need 11 pieces, but there's also not a lot of things to move either. That's the other problem, is like they've put themselves in this position now where, again, I go back to who was I talking to, looking around and saying the minor leagues are probably what they're looking at for hope and like replacements.
Didn't you drop in that stat about the Yankees ranking number 1 in like expected weighted on base average and for all minor league systems
for all
combined?
Minor leagues, A through AAA. So yeah,
again goes back to that hitters. Goes back to that conversation we had about a month ago where I forget who it was, basically like the Yankees are objectively good at developing major league hitters. It's like, no. They're objectively good at developing minor league hitters, but when they get to the major leagues, they can't hit. So what good is that?
I mean, look at everybody who's come up, not named Jason Dominguez. They've all been subpar.
Also, Jason Dominguez, we saw him for 10 days.
I understand, but at least we saw something from him. The other guys, Pereira, Peraza, like those guys have not hit at all. And Wells has not hit.
His first home run.
He did his first home run, but we're not seeing the bat that because that's his strength.
That's the reason he's got through the system.
So the fact that we're not seeing really any inkling of what they'd expect from a guy like him offensively is alarming. It is. And I understand it's a small sample size, and there have been plenty of stories here that have had troubles when they come up and have turned it around, but zero of those guys have had success. They're not. And Peraza's been up for a while. We've seen him multiple times. He's just, I don't think he's a good offensive player. I don't think he's going to round up to be a major league offensive player. Pereira probably a little bit, left in the tank for us to see and find out, but not looking great.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. We will talk to you guys again. I don't know. Maybe we'll do it. Maybe we'll wait because we did this last week too, where we recorded Friday and then Sunday we're like, what do we talk about? So maybe we'll wait until Monday. TBD. Talk to you guys then.